Jonah Marlowe didn't believe in luck. In space, luck was just another word for mistakes that didn't kill you. He was flying slow through the edge of the Zeta-9 system, checking a wreck field that stretched for miles. Pieces of metal floated, like ghosts, broken panels spinning silently. It was the remains of a Kalari battleship, one of the last destroyed before the peace treaty. The war was over, but its ruins still drifted, forgotten. Jonah was a salvage pilot, not rich, not famous. Just a man with an old ship called the Windward, and a list of broken things he was trying to fix: his ship, his debts, maybe even himself. Dawes. His scanners pinned small metal chunks. One strange signal blinked on his screen. It was a small escape pod, still sealed, still powered. That can't be right, Jonah whispered, slowing his ship. He maneuvered closer. The pod was old and blackened by fire, but the status light was blinking green. Something was still alive inside. Jonah paused. The law was clear. Any alien survivors had to be reported and handed over to the Colonial Board. Most were studied, interrogated, or worse, processed. No one wanted to deal with the Kalari anymore. The war had left people angry and afraid. He could turn it in, or ... Jonah sighed. I've got room. Using the docking arms, he pulled the pod into his cargo bay and sealed the doors. The pod hissed open slowly. Cold air rushed out. Inside was a girl, young, thin, and shaking. She had pale lavender skin, long brown hair tied back, and delicate, pointed ears. Her big amber eyes blinked in confusion, then locked onto Jonah. She looked scared. No, not just scared, terrified. Jonah raised both hands. Easy, I'm not going to hurt you. The girl didn't speak. She pressed herself against the wall of the pod, as far from him as possible. Jonah didn't move closer. He just pointed to himself. Jonah. Then he pointed to her and raised an eyebrow. You? She hesitated. Her voice was dry and cracked, like it hadn't been used in days. Ka Eli ... Tellyrin. Jonah gave a small nod. Okay, Kelly, you're safe now. Over the next few hours, Jonah set up a small sleeping area in his extra cabin. He gave her water, a blanket, and a warm protein meal from the printer. She ate slowly, watching him the whole time. She didn't talk much. When he asked if she was a soldier, she shook her head. Engineer ... Davilian. Technician. That explained the soft hands, the way she kept glancing at the ship's control panels with interest. Jonah let her rest. He didn't lock the door. He just made sure she knew where the emergency button was in case she needed help when she fell asleep. Curled up under the blanket, he quietly sat in the cockpit and stared at the stars. He could have reported her. Everyone would expect him to. Or worse, they'd assume he was keeping her for ... Other reasons, ugly reasons, but Jonah didn't care what they thought. She was alone, scared, and lost. What kind of man would he be if he treated her like trash? He rubbed his eyes. What are you doing, Marlowe? He muttered to himself, but deep down he already knew. He was going to help her. No matter what people said. The next morning, Kelly stepped carefully into the ship's kitchen. Her clothes were wrinkled, but her posture was a bit straighter. She sat at the table and watched Jonah pour 2 cups of tea. He slid one over to her. Still warm, minty. She sniffed it, then took a small sip. Not bad, Jonah smiled. You speak Terran Standard pretty well. Learned during war. Translation ship ... Delps. They sat in silence for a moment. Then she asked, You ... not give me away? He shook his head. No, why? Jonah looked at her. She wasn't a threat. Just a girl caught in the middle of something much bigger than her. Maybe a victim. Maybe just someone trying to survive? Because you don't deserve that, he said simply. Kelly didn't smile, but her shoulders relaxed. Just a little. Later that day, Jonah let her walk around the ship. She asked questions in short, careful sentences. What is this? Old engine core. This? Water recycler. When she reached the control panel, she paused. Her fingers moved gently over the screen. Then she looked at him. System ... inefficient. Can fix. Jonah raised an eyebrow. You're good with tech? She nodded. Back home ... I fix power grids. He stepped back. Be my guest. She began adjusting the settings. Her eyes lit up with focus. For a few minutes she forgot to be afraid. Jonah watched her. Not like an alien. Not like a prize, just a person, maybe a smart one, maybe a lonely one. He felt something settle in his chest. Not love, not yet, but something real. That night, Jonah stood alone in the engine room, staring at the stars through the small observation window. The quiet hum of the ship surrounded him. He knew what people would think. A human pilot, alone with an alien girl. They'd assume the worst. They always did, but he wasn't interested in using anyone. Not her, not anyone. She needed safety. A place to rest. A place to remember who she was, and maybe, just maybe, he needed that too. Kelly Wren woke slowly the next morning, her eyes adjusting to the soft yellow light of the ship's hallway. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the warm blanket, the strange but kind human, and the quiet hum of the windward. She sat up and looked around. The room was small, but it was clean. A simple metal shelf held folded clothes. There was even a small plant in the corner, artificial but still green. Jonah had placed it there before she arrived. Maybe it was just decoration, but to her, it felt like a welcome. Carefully, she stepped into the hallway. She didn't wear shoes. The floor was cool under her feet, and the air smelled like recycled metal and old coffee. Not home, but not a prison either. She found Jonah in the control room. He was sitting in the pilot's chair, drinking tea, his boots on the edge of the console. One screen showed ship systems, another played soft music, slow, simple earth tunes with no words. He noticed her and smiled. "Morning, Kelly," she nodded. "Good, darling. You sleep okay?" She tilted her head slightly, then gave a small shrug. "No dreams, just diet. Sometimes quiet is good." She sat across from him. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then she asked, "Where we go?" Jonah leaned back and looked at the star chart on the wall. "Nowhere in particular. I do repairs and salvage. Sometimes I trade supplies, just moving." Kelly traced her fingers along the console's edge. "You are alone?" He nodded. "Yeah, been that way for a few years. It's simpler." She didn't ask why. Maybe she understood already. The days passed. Kelly began to explore the ship more. She learned where things were, the food printer, the water station, the spare engine parts. She was quiet, careful, and always respectful. But by little, she started to open up. She liked to sit in the engine room. The soft glow of the energy core reminded her of home. She told Jonah about her planet Keller 4, a world of rivers, towers made of white stone, and gardens that floated in the air. "Sounds beautiful," Jonah said one night as they shared a meal. "It was," Kelly replied softly, "before the war." She didn't speak much about the war, just that she had worked as a technician, fixing systems in hospitals and city towers. When the enemy came, she hid. That's how she ended up in the pod alone, drifting in the dark. "I thought I'd die in space," she said one evening. Jonah looked at her. "You didn't?" She glanced at him and gave the smallest smile. "No, I didn't." One afternoon, Kelly brought a datapad into the control room. She had been studying the ship's systems and found something interesting. "You waste power on lower deck," she said, showing him a simple chart. "Circuits ... weak connection." Jonah raised an eyebrow. "I know those lines are old, but they still work. They use more energy. I can fix. If you let me." Jonah looked at her, surprised, but not at the offer. At how confident she sounded, he nodded. "Sure, go for it." She worked all day, opening panels, adjusting wires, and replacing a few old fuses. Her hands moved quickly, gracefully. She didn't need to be told what to do. She knew. By evening, she returned to Jonah with a quiet sense of pride. "Fixed. Ship will run smoother now." He checked the readings. "She was right. You're better than half the mechanics I know," Jonah said with a smile. Kelly looked down, shy. "I just like to help." "You did more than help." That night, Jonah added her name to the maintenance log. Technician. Kelly Wren. She stared at it for a long time, then touched the screen gently, but not everything was peaceful. One day, a message came through the ComNet. A contractor Jonah sometimes worked with had heard he'd rescued someone from the wreck fields. The voice on the screen said, "Hey, Jonah." Heard you picked up a little alien companion. You know, there's places that'll pay big for something. Like that, even if she's not a fighter." Jonah's face darkened. "She's not for sale," the man laughed. "Come on. You can't keep something like that forever. She ain't human." Jonah cut the call without saying another word. Kelly had been listening from the hallway. She didn't say anything, but her hands were clenched and her eyes were wide. Jonah turned and saw her. "I'm sorry you heard that." "I know what people think," she said quietly. He stepped closer. "Let them think what they want. I know who you are." She looked up at him. "Who am I?" He smiled softly. "My crew." Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away quickly. She didn't want pity. She wanted purpose. And now, for the first time in a long time, she had one. That night, Kelly stood by the observation window, staring at the stars. Jonah walked in, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. "Ship's running better thanks to you," he said, handing her one. She took it carefully. "You gave me a chance," Jonah nodded. "Everyone needs one." They drank in silence, side by side, watching the stars. Kelly still didn't feel completely safe, not yet. But she no longer felt like a ghost. She was real again. A person with a name, a role, and a space to breathe. And Jonah? He didn't see a strange alien girl anymore. He saw someone strong. Someone brave. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel so alone. Kelly Wren stood at the ship's side window, watching the stars slide past in a slow river of light. She still didn't know how far they were from her home or if her planet even existed anymore. But each day on the windward made her feel less like a drifting piece of wreckage and more like herself again. Jonah Marlowe, the human pilot who had saved her, gave her space to heal, but he never treated her like something broken. He talked to her like she mattered, like she belonged, and little by little, Kelly began to believe it. That morning, Jonah was crouched under a control panel, grumbling to himself as sparks popped from loose wires. The old ship had plenty of weak spots, and he didn't always have the parts to fix them. Kelly walked in holding a small data pad. "You missed this one," she said, pointing at a circuit diagram. Jonah looked up. "Again?" She smiled a little. "It's not your fault. Your ship is old." "Hey, don't insult the lady," Jonah joked, patting the side of the console. "She survived a lot." "So have I," Kelly replied. There was silence between them for a moment. Then Jonah smiled. "Fair enough." Later that day, Jonah showed her something new. The crew manifest. It was a metal plate near the sleeping quarters, listing every person who had ever officially served on the Windward. Some names were scratched out: former partners, old friends, people who had left or passed on. Jonah pointed at the bottom of the list where there was space left. "What do you think about adding one more?" Kelly blinked. "Who?" He looked at her. "You?" She froze. "Me? But I'm not crew. I'm not even from here. You fix things. You pilot when I'm tired. You remind me when I forget to eat," he said. "You're already part of this ship." Kelly stared at the empty space on the plate. Then she took a step closer. "Can I write it in my own script?" Jonah nodded. "Of course." She pulled out a small tool and carefully carved her name, Kelly Wren, in curved Kalari symbols. It was delicate and beautiful. Jonah stepped back and looked at it. "Looks official to me." Kelly touched the metal gently. "This is the first time my name has been written in months. Not on a tag or a report, but on a wall, like it belongs." "You do belong," Jonah said simply. A few days later, they reached a small station in orbit above a quiet moon. Jonah needed parts. Fuel lines, power stabilizers, and, if he could, find a proper water filter. The station wasn't busy. A few traders, 2 mining ships, and a repair crew were docked. But people still stared when Jonah and Kelly walked in together. Most humans had never seen a Kalari up close, especially not one who looked calm and comfortable beside a human. "Is she with you?" one vendor asked Jonah, raising an eyebrow. "She's my technician," Jonah replied. "Didn't think aliens could fix human ships." Jonah narrowed his eyes. "She fixes mine just fine." Kelly didn't say anything. She just looked at the display of tools and picked out what they needed. Back on the Windward, she asked quietly, "Why do they look at me like that?" "Because they don't know you," Jonah answered. and people fear what they don't know. Do you fear me? He shook his head. Never. Later that week, a small inspection drone arrived near their ship. It was sent by the Terran Board of Trade, just a routine check. But Jonah didn't like it. The drone's camera blinked to life. Pilot Jonah Marlowe, please confirm the presence of unauthorized passengers. Kelly stood at his side, her hands tight at her sides. Jonah spoke clearly. There are no unauthorized passengers. I have one crew member, Kelly Wren, listed under repair and operations. The drone paused. Species? Kaleri? Correct, Jonah said without hesitation. Purpose of presence? She lives here. Works here. This is her home. The drone recorded the answer, gave a short buzz, then flew off. Kelly turned to him slowly. You told the truth. I always will, Jonah said. That evening, Kelly returned to the garden dome. Jonah had installed it weeks ago, just a small clear bubble at the back of the ship. Inside, artificial lights warmed the soil. The plants were simple at first, earth greens and vines, but Kelly had added her own touches. She had used the nutrient printer to grow 2 seeds. She had hidden in her suit's lining since her escaped pod-rare Kaleri flowers, known as Turanu. Their petals glowed faintly in the dark, a soft blue like moonlight on water dot as she watered the plants. Jonah entered quietly behind her. Those are new, he said. Kelly nodded. They only bloom when they feel safe. He looked at her then. At the flowers. They're blooming now, she smiled. Yes, they are. As the stars moved slowly past the dome, Jonah leaned against the wall and watched Kelly work. She didn't look like a rescued girl anymore. She looked like someone who had a purpose, a place, a name, and it was written in metal beside his door, right where it belonged. The stars stretched wide around the windward as it floated through quiet space. A small ship, alone among thousands of glowing lights. But inside, something new was growing, something alive. Kelly Wren knelt in the small garden dome at the back of the ship, her fingers moving carefully through soft soil. Her hands, once used for fixing broken machines, were now gently guiding tiny green shoots to stand tall. Her Kaleri flowers, the Turanu, had bloomed fully now. Blue petals shimmered in the soft artificial light. She had even planted a few earth herbs Jonah had picked up on their last stop: mint, rosemary, and a single tomato plant. It smells like 2 worlds, Kelly whispered to herself. Jonah stepped in behind her, holding a mug of warm tea. I thought I heard humming. Kelly looked up, not embarrassed. I hum when I plant. Must be working. The tomatoes look brave. Kelly laughed softly. Her voice, once quiet and guarded, now held a bit of warmth. Jonah placed the mug down beside her. You know, I've never seen someone make a garden on a whole plate. I needed to see life, she said. Not just stars and wires. Jonah nodded. He understood. The garden didn't just help her. It helped him too. That week they received a small message from an old friend of Jonah's, Tara Halleck, a mechanic who ran a floating refuel station near the Beltline trade route. She sent coordinates and said, "Drop by." Got parts and news. Jonah charted the path and set course. Kelly checked engine balances. Everything was smooth. After 2 jumps and some light turbulence, they reached the station. It was a round, rust-colored, wheel-shaped platform with spinning docks and long power cables reaching out like spider legs. Not pretty, but reliable. Tara greeted them with a laugh and a hug. Well, a hug for Jonah. She blinked when she saw Kelly. So, this is the alien girl I've heard whispers about, she said with a raised brow. Jonah placed a hand on Kelly's shoulder. This is Kelly Wren. She's my engineer and co-pilot. Kelly gave a small respectful nod. Hello? Tara looked surprised but impressed. She's polite too. You sure she works with you, Jonah? Jonah smirked. She's the only reason. This ship isn't in pieces. Kelly smiled quietly, her hands folded in front of her. She didn't feel nervous not here. Not with Jonah beside her. Inside the station, Tara handed Jonah a small dataship. You might want to see this. The screen showed a message from a contractor who had once offered to buy. Kelly, it had been recorded just days ago. He was angry. That pilot's wasting good property. Someone needs to step in. The Kaleri girl could be worth thousands. He's not using her right. Jonah's jaw tightened. Kelly, watching over his shoulder, didn't say anything, but her hands curled into fists. He talks like I'm a tool. She said softly, "You're not," Jonah said. "And I don't care what they think." Tara shook her head. "There are always people like him, but word's been getting around. Some say you're protecting her. Others say you're hiding something." Kelly met Tara's eyes. "I'm not hidden. I work. I learn. I live." Tara blinked, then nodded slowly. "Well said." Back on the windward, Kelly sat alone in the garden dome. The flowers were quiet. Tonight, even the tomato plants seemed still. Jonah walked in, carrying a small toolkit. "I was thinking—" She looked up. "I want to make the garden permanent," he said. "Better light, better soil, maybe even temperature control." Kelly tilted her head. "Why?" "Because it's part of the ship now. Just like you." She blinked slowly. I mean it. You turned this place into something. More than metal and wires, you gave it breath." Kelly stood, walked over, and pointed to the hull beside the garden door. "Then carve a name," Jonah blinked. "What name?" Kelly smiled. "The Heart of the Windward, that's what I call it," he chuckled. "That's a good name." Together they carved the words into the metal wall beside the door. It wasn't fancy, just hand-etched letters, but to Kelly it felt like she had planted something even stronger than flowers. The next morning, a private ship floated quietly near the windward. No call came, no signal. Just a slow, silent hover, Jonah spotted. At first, "That's strange, they're not broadcasting." Kelly narrowed her eyes. "Maybe they're watching?" Jonah frowned. "Could be a contractor, could be worse." "Do we hide?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, we live." Jonah turned on the ship's external lights. The garden dome glowed clearly in view. Inside, Kelly stood tall among the plants, her hands folded calmly, her face lit with soft blue light from her homeworld's flower. He didn't hide her. He showed the truth. She was here, alive, strong after a few minutes. The ship turned and drifted away. Kelly let out a breath. "They saw, and they left," Jonah said. She looked at him. "Will others come?" "Maybe," he said, "but we'll be ready." "We're not doing anything wrong," Kelly thought for a moment. "No, we are doing something right." The night, Kelly added something new to the garden, a wind chime made from scrap metal, soft and silver. It rang gently when the air recyclers moved. Jonah heard it as he passed by and stopped. Kelly looked at him and smiled. "Now the ship sings." He nodded slowly. "It really does." The garden dome glowed softly at the back of the windward as the ship floated through calm space. Kelly Wren sat beside her blooming Taranu flowers, humming a tune from her childhood. The wind chime above her head sang gently with the steady breath of the ship's air system. This place, once just metal and light, now felt alive. She had built something beautiful in the middle of nowhere. Jonah stood nearby, watching her quietly. He didn't want to disturb the moment. He had never seen anyone change so much without ever trying to impress. Kelly didn't need to prove anything. She simply became more herself each day. Suddenly, the ship's comm system beeped. A message was coming through, long-range, encrypted, and strange. Jonah turned toward the console. "That's not human," he said. Eli stood up quickly. "Calari frequency?" He nodded slowly, already tapping in the code to accept the message. A clear, smooth voice spoke in an old Calari dialect. Kelly stepped forward to listen. As the words filled the room, her face changed. Her breath caught in her chest. "What does it say?" Jonah asked softly. Kelly whispered, "A Calari scout vessel is nearby." "They found me. They are asking me to come." Jonah blinked. "You thought no Calari were left?" "I thought they were gone, but they found this ship's signature. They tracked my name from the crew plate." She didn't sound angry. "Just surprised?" Jonah leaned back, thoughtful. "Do you want to talk to them?" Kelly was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. Yes. Later that day, a sleek silver Calari scout ship appeared on the edge of the local system. It didn't approach too close. It hovered at a respectful distance, its lights soft and still. The comm screen flickered to life, showing a Calari woman in a long, flowing uniform. Her skin was pale, her hair tightly braided, and her eyes sharp with intelligence. "Kelly Rin," the woman said. "We are the last wave of survivors from Keller 4. We did not expect to find you." Kelly stood tall beside Jonah. "I did not expect to be found." "You are well?" the woman asked, scanning Kelly's face. "Yes," Kelly replied. "This human ship saved me. Jonah Marlowe gave me shelter and respect." The woman raised an eyebrow. "He did not claim you?" "No," Kelly said firmly. "He gave me a place. A name on the door, a garden." The Kaleri officer paused. "Our colony ship welcomes you back. You are of Kaleri blood. You have a place with us." Kelly felt a wave of emotion rise inside. For so long, she had been alone. Now her people were calling her back. But something felt strange. She turned to Jonah. He didn't say a word. He didn't try to stop her. He just watched her with quiet eyes, letting her decide. The officer's voice continued. "We offer order, role, stability. You will return to the technician caste. You will help maintain our systems, like before." That word caste echoed in Kelly's mind. It was how things were on Keller. Roles were fixed. Technicians served. Soldiers commanded. Her life would be useful, yes, but controlled again. Kelly looked at the garden behind her. The chimes swayed gently. Her flowers bloomed. In earth soil, here she wasn't part of a caste. She was part of something free. She faced the screen. "I thank you, but I will not return." The officer's face stiffened. "You would stay with a human?" "I would stay with someone who sees me, not just my role. My name is not just Technician Kelly Rin. I am Kelly Rin, crew of the Windward." The Kaleri officer gave a slow, respectful nod. "Very well. We will not force you, but know that you are always welcome." The screen went dark after the call ended. Kelly stood in silence. Jonah placed a cup of warm tea in her hands. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I think so." "You could have gone." "I know." He looked at her gently. "Why didn't you?" Kelly held the cup tighter. "They offered a place, but not a voice." "You gave me both," Jonah smiled. "You earned it." She laughed softly. "You say that like I work for you." Jonah pointed to the plate outside the garden dome where her name was carved. "You work with me." That evening, Kelly returned to the garden. She brought a new plant from the station's seed bank, a flower from Earth called a sunburst lily. She planted it beside the Kaleri Taranu flower. One bloomed blue, the other golden yellow. "Different worlds," she said softly, "but they bloomed together." Jonah stepped into the dome, carrying something behind his back. "I've got something for you." Kelly turned, curious. He held out a small handmade sign made from ship panel scraps. On it, carefully written in both Terran Standard and Kaleri script, were the words, "Homegrown Kelly's Garden." Kelly stared at the sign, then looked up at Jonah. "You made this?" "Well," he shrugged, "the letters are a bit uneven." Kelly took it gently and held it close. "It's perfect." That night, Jonah found her sitting quietly under the dome's lights. "You know," he said, "I think you scared the Kaleri officer a little." "Good," Kelly replied with a smile. "Let them see I'm not lost." "You're more than found," Jonah said. "You're rooted now." Kelly looked at the flowers, then at him. "I didn't just survive," she said. "I grew." The next few weeks passed like quiet music aboard the Windward. The engines hummed, the garden dome grew brighter, and Kelly Rin's smile came more easily. She still spoke softly, but her voice no longer shook. Her steps were firm. Her eyes were clear. Jonah Marlowe watched all of it with quiet pride. He had seen many things in his life, old stars, broken ships, lost people, but none of them changed quite like Kelly did. She was no longer just a survivor. She was crew. She was family. One morning, Kelly walked into the control room wearing a new tool belt she had built herself. Small scanners, mini screwdrivers, a pad with her own technical notes all arranged just how she liked. Jonah raised an eyebrow. "You going somewhere?" "Yes," Kelly said calmly. "To the maintenance shaft. I want to reroute the hydro unit. It uses too much power at night." Jonah gave a small smile. "Don't let me stop you." She paused at the door. "Jonah, Yeah? She turned slightly. Thank you, for the garden, Then she walked away, her long brown hair bouncing lightly behind her. Jonah sat back, staring at the ceiling. She's gonna end up captain of this ship, isn't she? Later that day, a message came in through the long-range comm. Jonah opened it without thinking, expecting supply schedules or station updates. But instead, it was something new. And surprising, the Interstellar Aid Council had taken notice of the Windward. The message was short and clear. We heard about your crew member, Kellyrin. We'd like to invite both of you to speak at our next peace summit. We believe her story could help others. Jonah blinked. Peace summit? Kelly walked in just then, holding a loose wire. Did something break? He turned the screen toward her. She read the message carefully. Then again, they want me to speak? Looks like it. She sat down slowly. I never spoke for anyone before, only listened, fixed things. Jonah leaned forward. Maybe that's exactly why they need to hear you. Kelly looked unsure at first. But then her fingers touched the small pendant she always wore, a simple crystal from her home planet. She had almost lost it during her time in the escape pod. Now it hung safely around her neck. I will go, she said softly, a week later. The Windward docked at a peaceful orbital station called Nura Point, where the summit was being held. Diplomats, scientists, and refugees from many worlds filled the halls. There were humans, Kaleri, and even species Kelly had never seen before. Some stared when she passed, but others smiled. A few even came forward and thanked her. You're Kellyrin, right? The one with the Earthship garden? We heard you helped rebuild an engine room by yourself. They say you speak like water. Calm and clear. Kelly didn't know what to say at first. She just nodded, offered a small smile, and stayed. Close to Jonah, when it was time for her speech, she stood alone in a quiet hall. A small stage, a peaceful crowd. Jonah waited in the back, arms crossed, giving her space. Kelly stepped up to the podium. Her fingers trembled at first, but then she took a deep breath. My name is Kellyrin, she began. I am Kaleri. I was once a technician, hiding from war. I was afraid, alone. She looked at the audience. But someone gave me something I didn't know I needed. A place, not because I was useful, not because I was valuable, but because I was human in my own way. A few people nodded quietly. I grew a garden on the hull of a human ship. Not because it was needed, but because it was beautiful. Because beauty reminds us we're alive. She paused. They expected me to be silent, to be afraid, to follow, but I stayed. I grew, I chose, and that choice made me free. Applause filled the hall, not loud or wild, but warm, real laughter. The summit. The Windward became something more than a cargo ship. It became a quiet legend. Other travelers started calling in. Lost ones, stranded ones, broken ones. They asked for help. Some needed repairs. Some needed a kind word. Some needed a place to rest for just a while. Jonah and Kelly gave them what they could. And when they couldn't, they gave something just as important, hope. Kelly taught people how to fix things. She showed them how to grow simple plants even in recycled containers. She told stories from her world and listened to theirs. Jonah called it soft rescue. Not saving people with weapons, but saving them with kindness and calm and the courage to care. One quiet evening, Kelly and Jonah stood in the garden dome again. The Taranu flowers and earth Layla bloomed together under the glow lights. The wind chime swayed softly. Kelly turned to Jonah. You know, they used to talk about you. Oh? Jonah asked, sipping tea. They said you would use me, that you picked me up for selfish reasons, that I was just a tool to be sold or silenced. Jonah sighed. Yeah, I remember. Kelly smiled. But they were wrong. I didn't do anything special, Jonah said. I just gave you a room. Kelly shook her head gently. No, you gave me a home.